Hello and welcome to another episode of Climb the Confident Leader podcast. I'm your host, Rahul Karan Sharma, where I share the stories of leaders moving from invisible to becoming an influencer. Today, I have an amazing guest coming in from New Jersey. She's a multi-dimensional transformation executive with extensive hands-on experience in organizational change management, program project management, communication, facilitation, and training. Her corporate credentials include Accenture, IBM, and Pepsi Cola, to name a few. And her clients range from Fortune 100 enterprises to PE-backed ventures across a wide array of industry. And I was just chatting with her. She does 50% on site, 50% remote. So she's able to balance her schedule in a much better way. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hand together for one and only Sarena Diamond, the CEO and founder of Diamond Solutions Group. Welcome
Thank you
to our
so
show,
much.
Sarena. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And when I was learning about you, many things that you do is kind of I was seeing my own image in the mirror, the words that I was using, and the transformational work that you have been doing is phenomenal, Sarina.
Thank
I
you.
would want our audience to know more about you. So please enlighten us with your leadership journey so far and what you have been doing at the moment.
Sure. Thanks so much. As you mentioned in my introduction, I started my career at Accenture and really with technology orientation, systems development, that kind of stuff. I moved throughout my career to be solving more client problems than specifically, a coding kind of activity, but really bigger challenges. And like you mentioned, I moved on to Pepsi. I was at Hyperion before Oracle took over. I did a short stint at a .com, which was fabulously fun. And unfortunately, like with most .coms, did not sustain. Enjoyed some time at Mellon Investor Services before Enron and 9/11 took out that business unit quite a bit. And then the second chapter of my career was at IBM. The one thing that is consistent throughout all of those has always been around serving clients that are struggling, or internal or external clients that are struggling with complex challenges. And
Mhm.
so at the end, when IBM and Kyndryl were spinning off or splitting, I was a shared service at the time, serving both companies, and really took a lot of thought and time to figure out what I really wanted to do was focus on helping leaders affect change more efficiently, more innovatively, and with more success. So I did a short stint at Mercer, and then I have been on my own ever since. Um, I've had fabulous client experiences in some industries I never would have had the opportunity to work for if I wasn't in business for myself, and really have had some tremendous success in helping leaders find new ways of inspiring their teams and empowering teams to adopt new ways of working, changed outcomes. And it's working. I'm busy, which is awesome.
Yes, absolutely. I think the way you just put it, inspiring leaders to find different ways to motivate their team, to inspire their team, specifically in that moments of change, because change management is definitely tricky. And I was reviewing an article from HBR, Harvard Business Review. It mentioned that 90% of change management initiatives do not succeed. So, Sarina, in your experience, why so many change initiatives launch strong, but then they fade in the future or in the later stage? What are some of the pitfalls you see in sustaining the change over time?
So it's funny that you mentioned that because I've heard the HBR 90%, McKinsey 70%, and I will always have a client leader who will contradict me. That seems too high. That's ridiculous. And I say, well, let's assume it's not zero,
Hmm.
right? Let's just assume that it's some number greater than one, and you don't want to be part of that. And so, how do you, to your point, how do you avoid those pitfalls, those things that are going to make you be part of the failure record? And I think there's a number of factors that go into it, but the one that resonates consistently, and the one that I actually do a workshop. I speak in Vistage workshops as well as corporate environments and helping them to understand there's a very specific pattern around creating the reason, what building the purpose, what is that belief in the
Mhm.
structure. And I think a lot of leaders forget that they need to build a why around that, helping people understand that clear purpose for why we're doing the change. And then really the what and the how. How do you enable new ways of working?
Mhm.
And then how do you make sure that the culture is ready with a growth mindset to adopt, to
Mhm.
take on that and to sustain those changes? Because, vision is inspiring, right? But
Correct.
people need to have a line of sight to their daily behaviors, their decisions, their challenges. Otherwise, it's just really an inspirational message, but it doesn't really, follow through. Um, I see it throughout, different client engagements, leadership, priorities change, challenge in communication. Well, I said it once. If I have to send another email, right? Those kinds of things where
Correct.
the ability to help the team to come up to speed and then maintain that momentum is
Mhm.
crucially important.
Yep. And I think you touch base on a very strong point is around the culture. Yes, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as founders, you are very excited to bring that change, to introduce that change. But is your team ready? Is your organization having that culture which is conducive to that change? So
For sure.
sometimes we miss on that, and that's what Sarena mentioned. That's the first golden nugget that has been taught by Sarena. Take care of the culture. Now, in your introduction, you were talking about how you inspire leaders to really motivate the team members to use the right communication. Now, in this change management setting, when the employee's enthusiasm goes down, what are some of the tips or some of the suggestions you have for leaders to really keep that up, keep that momentum up?
I love that question because what that really says is that leaders are acknowledging the fact that human beings on the other end of whatever this initiative are challenged with the things that are going on in the world, in
Mhm.
their home life, and in their corporate settings, right? There's just no way to avoid that. One of the things that I often say to leaders is you're focused on resistance, and in some cases you have to normalize that, right? You have to name it. You have to acknowledge the fact that change is hard. It's coming in waves for everybody all the time. So when you actually look at what it is that's helping to build that resistance, is it lack of skills? Is it
Mhm.
lack of will? I don't want to, right? I'm just tired. I don't want to. There's a coaching aspect of that. Or is there some problem, some real hill, some real barrier that is keeping them from coming along on the journey with you? One of the things that I will try and encourage leaders to do is to find ways to make people succeed. So
Mhm.
I'll do something like a 30, 60, 90 momentum map, right? Publish something every single day for 30 days, for
Mhm.
60 days, for 90 days, tied specifically to outcomes, not effort,
Mm.
outcomes, not activities. So what you're not trying to do is to normalize, oh, this person stayed up all night or worked all weekend. That's not what we're trying to do. Normalizing the momentum that drives outcomes is really an important aspect. But I do think that there is an aspect from a leader's perspective to just recognize that there's an energy that they're responsible for creating. Energy follows that evidence of success, right? So the more proof points that you can find people doing the right behaviors that are going to allow change to succeed, making the leaders responsible for seeking those out and celebrating those, the more often that the resistance or apathy in some cases, right? The resistance to change starts to dissipate. I will also often say, are you using the we word? We are doing this, or we don't do things that way, or we. That's an important aspect. And I think when leaders start to recognize that we're all in this together, normalizing some of the resistance by name and coaching and supporting them through it is really an important aspect.
Wow. I think you really summed it up, which is first acknowledging that change is hard. Instead of just hammering people that they change, change, change. No, change is hard, and
Right.
so that is another aspect that a leader should do. And the lastly, as you mentioned, that we approach the communication approach, communicate, communicate, communicate. And what
100%.
Sarena mentioned, just don't communicate the activities, communicate the outcomes that really makes a difference, that is measurable, so that people can really see the value that is being getting added through this change management effort.
Right.
Thank you, and I'm sure
Thank you.
leaders would be blessing you for sharing sharing these tips with them. Let's say the communication is done, they are acknowledging the change is hard. Still, what are some ways where now in change management, as you know, there are certain people who are responsible for change, those change agents we call. But there are a lot of other people, like the individual contributors, they also play a vital role. They may not have the formal authority, but they do play a role in driving that change in their own capacity.
For sure.
So, any inputs for those people who do not have that formal authority, but still they want to support and still they want to do their little bit, how they can do it, how they can lead those initiatives?
It's really important because I've actually had a client that has done twice in the length of time that I've been working with them, done organizational diagnostic employee survey kind of stuff. And what they've discovered each time is that there are people that are influencing their organization positively or negatively
Mm,
that are not in an authority figure role. And
mhm,
so as soon as you're trying to affect any kind of change, it could be something small, right? It could be something fun, but those influencers are crucially important. I will also often say as we're going through an organizational change, I will ask for, who are the coalition of champions? Who are the people, those influencers that have either through informal authority or just relationship skills, right? And when you do your strengths finder, you find your those relationship builders, those people that know how to do that. And then the most important thing I often say when you find those people is to make sure that we're framing the change in terms of a collective cross-functional benefit, right? What is it that back to the we, right? What is it that we collectively are trying to do? And getting input. I think one of the things that leaders struggle with, especially now, is this feeling that they're supposed to be the be all and end all, know everything, be the one that's going to show everyone else the way, as opposed to being the leader that is confident in their own skills and really well connected to these champions that can help influence outcomes that they might not necessarily be. Because the spider web is really strong. And if you think about them being the center with a lot of connection points, they can create momentum, they can create outcomes across the boundaries, across the silos, across all those informal authority roles, all those little nodes in the spider web. And that really drives the results to be so much greater and so much more inclusive in the outcomes that get driven. It's really an important nuance, but it's hard for leaders, especially now. I think there's so many leaders that I work with either directly as clients or indirectly. They reach out to me on LinkedIn, believe it or not, that will
mhm,
say things to me like, I just feel like I need to know. I have to put on the face. There were layoffs last quarter. Oh, I have to prove my worth. And it's really an interesting dynamic when the leader feels confident in their own skills and
mhm.
can accept a, a collaboration of other champions, a cohort of champions, so to speak.
Correct, correct. Now, I think you're bringing a good point here. When people are confident, that confidence will be visible in their work.
For sure.
I think no one can take away that confidence from themselves.
For sure.
This weekend, we got the results for my son's travel team tryout. So, fortunately, he made to the team. He's now part of the sixth grade basketball team.
Oh,
But
bless you.
yeah, but one thing the coach said that it's okay now you're on the team, but now you need to earn your play time because it is not a recreation where you will play every 2 quarters. You
Right.
have to earn your play time.
For sure.
The conversation here is how you earn your playtime is your confidence.
For sure.
Are you showing your confidence at the court? Similarly, employees who are in an individual contributor capacity, how they can support is by just being confident in what they are doing. And I think, as you were mentioning, Serena, that there are people who are influencing in a good way or not so good way. So be that influencer, the positive influencer, because there is always that support. You may not be able to change the world, but you may be able to change at least five people around you. And
Right.
that is what will cause a ripple effect. So
For sure. For
thank
sure.
you for sharing that. Now, during our introduction, you spoke about the culture aspect. You spoke that culture is very, very critical. Now, for organizations, what kind of cultural shift they need to do in order to become part of this is how we do things rather than an occasional project? How they
For
can
sure.
make it just smooth for them for life?
I love that you're talking about that because I do actually a lot of work with organizations that are trying to embed sort of this air of continuous improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And inevitably, you'll have a project, and then somebody will say, "Hey, we need to maintain this momentum in a
Mm-hmm.
continuous improvement kind of way." And it really is about the practice. How do you embed a continuous improvement, a growth mindset in your folks? It's not an annual initiative. It is not even your annual objectives that you're going to then evaluate. It really does have to be part of a weekly habit. I will say to leaders, what are you doing as far as a retrospective? What does that mean? What are we saying about what did we do well? What do we need to do differently? What outstanding questions do I still have that we haven't answered? And what new ideas do I have to try? Some of that retrospective aspect of everyday activity can really help to change some of that. I also do think that the cultural shift for how we do things starts lots of times in language. It's in the nomenclature that we use as leaders to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that people hear us talking about things that are about continuous improvement. It is always unfortunate to me when I get hired by the C-suite to go teach something to their leadership, their people managers, and the C-suite doesn't show up. I will often say we need to have a pre-meeting. I will show you in rapid fashion everything that your managers are going to learn. And I'm actually going to help you with communications around how do you make this how we show up, the collective.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part for lots of people managers that I'm working with these days, and it's the messy middle. It's everything from the executive to the front line. The everybody else is feeling pinched like an hourglass with a really tight middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're struggling with the we
Mm-hmm.
because they are the front lines to all of the people that are trying to in some cases get the work done. They're managing all those tasks, they're leading most of the people, and they're not getting that kind of support from above that is about embedding a continuous improvement mindset. So one of the things that I will also say is that culture starts at the top. It is not something you pass to HR. It is not something you pass to your learning and development people. They can execute on activities, but
Mhm.
culture is the thing, the way the leaders show up and the nomenclature and the words that we start using from all hands meetings and and all the way down to every email that gets written.
Absolutely. I think great point that you mentioned that it starts from the top. It is not at the mercy of the HR team or L&D team or the communication team
For
to
sure.
lead the change management effort. And I have seen multiple times is there is a communication that is being done or the change management team is doing the talk. But then in reality, what is happening is completely opposite of what you want to make it happen or how you want to make it happen. So if we really want that culture of how this is here how we do things, it has to start with the language and starts with the language from the top. So
For
great
sure.
point. Now another thing, being from an L&D background, Serena, there's this one question always come to us as a leader is the measurement, uh, the ROI aspect, and everything they want to do to the dollar value. And as you know, the efforts or the work that we do, it is all based on many different activities. It is just not based on that one training and you will see the results. Uh, there's one event and the results will happen, and it's a time process. It happens with time. From your experience, how an organization should measure the impact of change management efforts?
I often say to leaders that there are leading indicators and lagging indicators, right? There's the leading indicators around adoption.
Mhm.
How many new ways of working? In some cases, you can find it very clearly. Your Jira board interactions, those kinds of activities that you're so used to seeing. How many users went through training? How many people were certified? Whatever that kind of adoption or enablement activity might be, but it's often about the way people are talking, the way people are showing up in new ways of working, interacting with each other. Now, the hard part, those are the leading indicators, right? Those are the headlights going forward. Too often, everybody wants to look in the rearview mirror. They're looking at the performance indicators, the outcomes. What is the cycle time that's been influenced? Or have we reduced defects? Or have we reduced the number of manual interventions? I will often say I did a very large initiative with IBM at one point that had, as we looked at the process, it had 17 points of approval. Now, okay, IBM's got a lot to protect, so they wanted to make sure that there were lots of people, stakeholders to approve or approve something before it went forward. The interesting thing was that we looked back years of data, and there had been 16 of the 17, there had never been a no of the 16 of the 17 roles that could approve, which tells me people were cynical about wasting time. I said, no, what that's done is you've actually taught the organization to anticipate the needs of 16 of the 17 approvers. That's a very good adoption indicator. You've changed the way they've worked so that they are anticipating the needs of that role to be able to approve that ahead of time. So good on you for creating that new way of working. The interesting thing was that, removing that as opposed to that metric, that performance lagging kind of metric. I'm a big believer in things like, customer satisfaction, feedback mechanisms, loops that tell you both quantitatively and qualitatively how the change has affected those stakeholders in the process. So, there's certainly some of that that goes. But overall, I think that when change is working, it's really about the health of the organization. You've got, capacity that's been created. People are doing things smarter. They have new ways of working. They're able to, as I use often, they're able to get to their kids' basketball game on a Thursday night because they're not working 14 hours a day, right? They're actually able to do some of those healthy organizational things that
Right.
don't necessarily show up on a balance sheet or an EBITDA, but it is really an important aspect. And I tell people, if you're trying to measure the impact of change management, be really clear, set your baseline, define what your targets are, and then review it regularly, monthly, quarterly, if there's something that's more executive, but make sure that it is in the same place where the financials are being reviewed, because change metrics, they don't live on an island, right? They are tied to those things that are also being reviewed. So the same people that are interested in the financials need to see that those targets of change are there at the same place, and
Correct.
they go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Great points here. So, learning professionals, change management professionals, take a note of this lagging indicators or leading indicators, so you can measure the outcome of efforts, change management efforts through that. The other thing I would add is change management effort. It is not only the responsibility of L&D team or a change management team or a HR team. It's the responsibility of each and every one in the organization. And I would say to start with the leaders, because what typically I have seen in my experience that in the initial quarter, everyone is pumped up, everyone is going gung ho for this project. But as time passes, people start to weave in into different things. There is no discussion happening around it. So, for example, a training initiative. How many times it happens that reporting manager asks them, "Hey, how was the training? What did you learn? What do you plan to improve?" And the moment you ask once or on a regular basis, people will know that, hey, this has been taken seriously. But what in turn happens? What questions leader ask? Hey, how much is the top line? How much is the bottom line? No one actually talks about how well you are doing internally? How's
Sure.
your work life management? How's your mental health? No one talks about it. So when no one talks about it, people are become smart. People know that my paycheck is coming from this guy or this person or this lady. He or she is not interested whether I'm learning, whether I'm improving or not. They are only interested in getting that bottom line or top line. So they are not that motivated. So my request, yes, it is duty for the CEO or CFO to check with L&D or change management team on the measurable results. But I think you need to look into your own self. How much effort have I put in as a leader to really bring this change to life? And effort not in just email communication, effort not just in building the team in your own heart. And you know the answer. You know the answer whether you have done your bit or not. So that is something I would say around the change management piece. Before we move on to a rapid fire round, Sarena, there are many people who are listening to us. And if they are inspired with your approach, if they're inspired with your thought process and they want to work with you, they want to bring you to their organization, what's the best way for them to do?
Best way to find me is LinkedIn, believe it or not, because if you spell my name correctly, the way my mom intended, not the way Serena Williams' mom intended for her, but you spell it correctly, Sarena, I am the only Serena Diamond on LinkedIn. A billion people, and I'm it. I'm the only one. So I'm there. I have a second screen that's dedicated to LinkedIn. That's where business is being done, and that's where I am. And I quick to respond there all the time. They can certainly go to my website. They can, look me up other ways, but that's the most expeditious way.
Absolutely. So now you are talking to only one and only one Sarena Diamond on LinkedIn, ladies and gentlemen.
That's me.
A unique thing that we have from this guest. So uh, now we'll move to the rapid fire round. So there will be 5 questions coming your way, and our audience would be more interested to know the different side of your personality. Okay?
Sure.
First one coming is a quotation you live by.
Be the water, not the rocks.
Be the water, not the rocks. Amazing. Indoors or outdoors for your ideal leadership retreat?
Combination.
Combination. Okay.
Always combination.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning all day long. Morning
Okay.
work. Yep.
What's one leadership skill you wish someone had taught you earlier?
I wish someone would have taught me earlier to accept that the things that I have that are very good and be comfortable with the things that I didn't show up. I had a lot to learn there early in my career.
Excellent. Final one. If your career were a Netflix series, what would be the title of season 1 be?
Becoming unstoppable.
Becoming unstoppable. Wow. I'm sure that would be a blockbuster as soon as it gets released. Sarena. Um, all right, so now we're on the verge of end of our episode, but still, before I let Sarena go and before I let you go, audience, this is now your time to mention what is your biggest takeaway from the episode. You can put it in the chat on the YouTube, or you can put it on Spotify or wherever you are listening. Put it in your comments. Send her invitation request to Sarena if you really like what she's doing, because these things helps us as a energy boosters. We as a change management professionals, we love when people approach us. We love when people really comment on what we are doing and how we are doing. My learnings from the show. So there were many golden nuggets as I shared during the episode that Sarena discussed. But number one, people live or companies have a lot of complex challenges. So let's acknowledge that fact that companies are having those challenges, and for those challenges, they need to have a very good process to run through that change. And common change management pitfall, as Sarena mentioned, is the culture misfit. We do not see, or probably we miss seeing that culture. We are so excited to bring that change, but we do not know the culture. It is something that we get a dish from a restaurant to eat, but we do not have proper vessels to eat. And so that's what one of the common pitfall in change management. The second thing which I learned from Sarena is for leaders, it's okay to acknowledge that change is hard. Don't just be that person who sound that everything is easy, everything is doable. Yes, it is doable, but it is hard. So acknowledge that fact and communicate. Communicate with the we as a language, number one, and communicate more about the outcomes rather than just the activities. Those things will allow you to really inspire your team members as the change management initiatives goes in the month 3 or month 4. Lagging indicators and leading indicators from the measurement perspective. And another aspect is be a positive influencer during this change management process, because there is a lot of things going on. You have to do your full-time job, plus you have to take care of this change management responsibility. So it's not easy. But instead of becoming that negative influencer, be a positive influencer. And if those negative thoughts are coming in your mind, take a deep breath, go for a walk, do some yoga, or eat something that you like, and bring back that positive energy. Because one person bringing a positive energy, it creates a ripple effect, and it really see that change management initiative getting the results that it truly deserve. With that said, that those were some of the learnings from my end. So thank you, Serena, again for being here on the show. We really appreciate it. We wish you good luck for all the great work that you are doing for your clients as well as their team members, because I'm sure they must be thanking you the work that you are doing for the client. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Take care and be safe.
Thanks so much for having me.
Bye bye.